Imagine 5 military aircraft, 14 trained men, all flying a routine training mission on a clear afternoon. Now imagine every single radio transmission suddenly turning into confusion and panic. The lead pilot insisting his compass is broken, the planes flying in circles, getting more lost by the minute. And then, without a single distress call, without a single piece of wreckage ever being found, all 5 planes simply vanish. Not damaged, not delayed. Gone, as if they were erased from existence. This actually happened in 1945, in a stretch of ocean that has swallowed more ships and planes than almost anywhere else on Earth. Stay till the end, because the rescue plane sent to find them disappeared too. December 5th, 1945. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 5 Navy torpedo bombers, known as Flight 19, take off on what should be a completely routine training exercise over the Atlantic Ocean. 14 experienced airmen are on board, led by a seasoned flight instructor named Lieutenant Charles Taylor. The weather is clear. The mission is simple. Fly a set triangular route out over the ocean, drop practice bombs at a designated target, then fly back to base. It's the kind of exercise these men have completed dozens of times before. About 90 minutes into the flight, something goes wrong. Radio operators back at base start picking up strange, disjointed transmissions from Taylor. He reports that his compasses are malfunctioning, that he isn't sure of his position, and that the ocean beneath him doesn't look right. He claims the islands below don't match where he expects to be. Other pilots in the formation begin echoing his confusion, and the flight, which should have been heading back toward Florida, instead appears to drift further and further out over open ocean. Let that sink in for a second. 5 trained military pilots, flying in formation, with fully functioning aircraft, and none of them can figure out which direction is home. As the minutes tick by, radio contact becomes more fragmented and desperate. Taylor's transmissions grow increasingly erratic, describing white water below that looks wrong, insisting they need to change course, but seemingly unable to agree on which way to go. Base personnel listening in grow more and more alarmed, unable to offer any concrete help because they can't pinpoint the squadron's exact location. The last clear transmission anyone hears is Taylor telling his men to prepare to ditch together when the fuel runs out, and then silence. No more radio contact, no distress signal, nothing. A massive search and rescue operation launches almost immediately. One of the aircraft sent out that same night is a PBM Mariner flying boat, carrying 13 more men, tasked specifically with locating Flight 19 and any survivors in the water. This rescue plane takes off, checks in briefly by radio, and then it too simply disappears. Ships in the area later report seeing what looked like a fireball or explosion on the horizon around the time the Mariner should have been flying nearby, but no wreckage, no bodies, and no confirmed cause is ever recovered. In total, 6 aircraft and 27 men vanish that single afternoon and evening in an area of ocean that becomes known worldwide as the Bermuda Triangle, a roughly triangular region stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Despite one of the largest air and sea searches in U.S. naval history at the time, involving hundreds of ships and aircraft scouring thousands of square miles of ocean, not a single piece of wreckage from any of the 6 planes is ever found. No debris. No oil slicks, no life rafts, nothing. This is where the story becomes almost impossible to fully explain. Flight 19 isn't an isolated case. Over the following decades, the same general stretch of ocean becomes associated with a long, unsettling list of other ships and planes that vanish under strange circumstances. In 1918, a massive Navy cargo ship called the USS Cyclops, carrying over 300 crew members and a heavy load of cargo, departs from Barbados and is never seen or heard from again. No wreckage, no distress call, nothing, despite the ship being large enough that its disappearance remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history not directly caused by combat. In 1948, a commercial airliner called Star Tiger vanishes on a flight from the Azores to Bermuda, again with no wreckage ever recovered. The following year, its sister aircraft, Star Ariel, disappears on almost the exact same route under nearly identical circumstances. Ships too become part of the pattern. Vessels found completely abandoned with no crew aboard, meals still sitting on tables, engines still running, as if everyone simply vanished mid-task without a moment's warning. Let that sink in for a second. Over the course of the 20th century, this single region of ocean reportedly claims dozens of ships and dozens of aircraft, along with hundreds of lives, often without leaving behind a single scrap of physical evidence explaining what actually happened to any of them. Naturally, theories about the Bermuda Triangle exploded into popular culture, especially after a 1974 best-selling book brought the phenomenon to worldwide attention. Some theories lean toward the genuinely bizarre, claims involving lost technology from the mythical city of Atlantis, mysterious electromagnetic anomalies that supposedly interfere with instruments and communication, or even theories involving extraterrestrial activity. These explanations captured public imagination for decades, turning the Bermuda Triangle into one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in modern history. But here's where the story takes an important turn. When researchers, meteorologists, and maritime historians actually dig into the details of these disappearances, a very different picture starts to emerge. The region covered by the Bermuda Triangle happens to be one of the busiest stretches of ocean and airspace on the entire planet, with enormous volumes of both commercial and recreational sea and air traffic passing through it constantly. Statistically, simply due to the sheer volume of ships and planes moving through the area, some number of accidents, disappearances, and losses would be expected purely by chance, without needing any unusual explanation at all. The region is also known for genuinely unpredictable and violent weather patterns. Sudden, fast-forming tropical storms and hurricanes are common in this part of the Atlantic, capable of overwhelming vessels and aircraft with very little warning. The area also contains some of the deepest ocean trenches on Earth, meaning that when a ship or plane does go down, the wreckage can sink to depths of many thousands of meters, making recovery not just difficult, but in many cases essentially impossible with the technology available at the time these disappearances happened. As for Flight 19 specifically, aviation investigators studying the case later note that Lieutenant Taylor, the flight leader, had reportedly requested to be excused from leading that particular mission, citing personal reasons, though his request was denied. Some researchers now believe Taylor may have genuinely become disoriented, mistaking a chain of islands for a completely different location, leading the entire squadron progressively further out to sea rather than back toward Florida, until their fuel simply ran out over open, deep ocean, far from any hope of rescue. Now, here's the number that makes the mystery feel more grounded than mysterious once you actually look closely at it. Despite decades of dramatic claims about wildly abnormal disappearance rates within the Bermuda Triangle, several independent statistical studies conducted by insurance companies and maritime safety organizations have found that the number of ships and planes lost in this region is not actually significantly higher than in other heavily trafficked ocean areas around the world, once traffic volume and known weather risks are properly accounted for. That said, the disappearance of Flight 19 remains genuinely unresolved in one important way. To this day, despite extensive searching over the decades, the wreckage of the 5 original aircraft has still never been definitively located and confirmed, and the exact final movements and decisions made by the pilots in those final confused radio transmissions remain a matter of informed speculation rather than absolute certainty. So what do we actually take away from a story like this one? It's tempting to reach for the most dramatic possible explanation when faced with an unsolved mystery. Lost civilizations, strange energy fields, forces beyond our understanding. But that's exactly what makes the real story of the Bermuda Triangle so genuinely fascinating once you dig into it. It shows how easily human pattern recognition can turn ordinary tragedy, statistical coincidence, and difficult ocean conditions into something that feels supernatural, simply because the wreckage was never found and the full story was never confirmed. No confirmed wreckage. No confirmed cause. No certainty, even decades later. And in that uncertainty, one of the most enduring mysteries in modern history was born. Next time you hear something described as completely unexplainable, try to remember there was once a squadron of 5 planes that vanished into thin air over open ocean, and a mystery that grew large enough to capture the imagination of the entire world. Built as much from missing answers as from anything anyone could actually prove happened out there. If this story hit you the way it hit me while researching it, make sure you're subscribed, because there are true stories out there, even stranger and more extreme than this one, and I'm going to tell you every single one of them.